So we have arrived. We have explored 70,000 years of human history. We have examined the challenges of sustainable development all over the world. We have looked at our current age, our digital age, and the great challenges that we face in ending extreme poverty, ensuring social justice, in facing and ending the great environmental crises that have been caused by the sixth and seventh ages of globalization, and of course in the challenges of finding peace and cooperation on the planet. So it remains for us to take stock and to examine carefully and in an organized way what we can do and what you, especially young people, will do to ensure that we move to the kind of future we want, to a world of sustainable development. I'd like to suggest that our studies of history and our examination of the current crises lead us to 5 main building blocks in achieving sustainable development. The first of these building blocks is transformation of our societies. Wherever you are in the world, society needs to change. We need to change our energy systems. We need to change how farming is done. We need to change our protection of biodiversity. We need to make our economies and societies and political systems more socially just. We need to cooperate better globally. So transformation requires investing in the future. And there are 6 major areas where these investments are needed. The first is the one we're doing right now. That is investing in education, investing in the knowledge, the skills, the ways of learning and understanding that are crucial for the future. Every child in every part of the world should have the opportunity for a quality education and for as long as their capabilities enable them to pursue that education. Second is the investment in healthcare, in public health, in longevity, which we all want and seek, in healthy life years, and in the fight against preventable and treatable disease. The third is the transformation of our energy systems and our industrial systems so that they don't destroy the planet, so that they don't violate the planetary boundaries. And most important is the challenge of decarbonization by 2050 worldwide, so that an energy system that grew up during the sixth and seventh ages of globalization based on coal, oil, and natural gas becomes an energy system based on zero carbon energy, wind, solar, hydro, geothermal, nuclear in some places, but all zero carbon for climate safety. The fourth area of investment is in precision agriculture and enhanced farm productivity so that we can grow the healthy foods that we need without chopping down more rainforest, without more extended farms and pasture lands, and thereby preserve biodiversity. And we mean applying advanced technologies, even artificial intelligence and big data, so that our farm systems improve in productivity tremendously and take the pressure off of more land clearing that has been the process of recent decades. The fifth area of investment is investment in urban infrastructure, in the housing, the roads, the water and sanitation, the digital connectivity, the availability and access to public services in our cities, which will be home to 70% or more of humanity by mid-century. And the sixth area of investment that really enables those first five of education, health, industry, farming, and urban settlements is digital access for all, because digital technologies, if properly utilized, are a very powerful instrument for societal transformation. So the first point, the first building block of sustainable development is transformation through large-scale investments in our societies to transform our societies to be environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive and prosperous for all. The second major building block of sustainable development is to plan for all of this. You're learning the first steps of the planning process that will be needed to look ahead. For example, to change our energy system from one that is based on coal, oil, and natural gas to one that is based on wind and solar and other zero-carbon energy sources requires not only transformative investments, but a plan of action to mid-century. And that kind of long-term thinking, sometimes foreign to our politicians who think in the short term or along the electoral cycle, need to be part of the way we operate in the future. Longer-term plans, longer-term thinking, all arrayed and arranged to meet the four big objectives of prosperity, social justice, environmental sustainability, and peace and cooperation. The third building block in all parts of the world will be a mixed economy that combines private sector driven by profit and public sector enterprise driven by collective action. Because in every area that I've discussed, there is a need for both the public and the private sector. In some areas, especially health and education, certainly the public sector is the most important. In other areas, such as industry and farming, the private sector is the most important. But in all cases, both public and private sector activities are needed and are complementary with each other, meaning that one supports the other to a mutual benefit. A fourth building block of sustainable development is cooperation, not only within a country, not only in our cities and communities, but also among neighboring countries. If I have a saying in economics, it is be nice to your neighbor. You trade with your neighbor. You must cooperate with your neighbor. You typically share a river shed with your neighbor, or a forest region with your neighbor, or coastlines with your neighbor. Or when your neighbor pollutes, it ends up in your front yard. And so cooperation among neighboring countries is essential. And there's no deep reason why neighbors can't cooperate. Sometimes they have long-standing conflicts. That territory is mine, that territory is mine. But the benefit of solving such border disputes, for example, is enormous. Because if neighbors can get beyond fighting over their boundary lines and get to the recognition that they share common ecosystems and a common fate, and even that their energy and digital systems are going to be intertwined if they're going to be effective, will lead to the kind of cooperation that can really solve sustainable development challenges. And of course, the sixth major building block of sustainable development is cooperation at the global scale, the hardest of all. Our hard wiring, our human nature is very local. Our families, the local band of our nearest neighbors and relatives, remembering that we emerged from our long biological evolution in small foraging bands of 30 to 50 people. And so we still think locally, and we often think that others across the globe are enemies, but we have to understand that we share a common fate and we share a common home on this planet. And therefore, the institutions of the United Nations are so essential, and the institutions of global trade and global finance and global shared problem solving and global flows of know-how and technology are all essential for our success. So these are the 5 building blocks that we need to put in place. It's a new kind of thinking, a new kind of politics, but we are in a new reality. As President Kennedy said, as I've emphasized, for the time is very different now. We are in new circumstances when we can end poverty and where we must avoid global conflict.